Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and it's very easy to pick those very obvious players that everyone is going for, but how about some players that make the difference, players that a lot of other people are not going for, the low ownership players, the low selected players. I'm talking about differentials, of course. In today's video, we are going to be going through 25 of the most interesting differentials that FPL has to offer ahead of Game Week 17 and ranking them. So if you do enjoy this one, please do like the video and do subscribe if you're new around here. But let's rank some differentials. Alright guys, so we're going to be doing this in tier list format just so we can get through as many as we can very quickly and rank them all basically. And yeah, we're going to do 25, like I say. We're going to start off with the player who is the most owned of these players. All of these players are under 13% owned. Most of them are under 5% owned. So there are some less differential players in here. So we're going to start off with some players that a lot of people are already buying, already speaking about. Let's start you off with Diogo Dalot, who is at 13% owned. He is a defender for Manchester United, of course. Now, my issue with him is that he has not been spotted in training yet still, so there is high suspicion that he has got an injury. He did get injured, of course, playing for Portugal. We're not sure if he's going to be back quite yet, so I think until we know for sure that he is training and he is available, I feel like Dalot has to actually go into the avoid section, which is a shame because he's a player I was definitely looking at, a player I was really hoping that I could squeeze into my team. But if he's not available, if he's injured, then it's just not going to be possible. So Dalot right now, until we see him training, is gonna have to be an avoid. Not got too many days left for him to get back into the team. Of course, this can change in the next few days. I just want to put him in there for now, though, right this second. Next up, Reece James, who I think is going to be, he's going to be a great option. He's going to be the first great option of the video. And I'm going to put him in there just because we have seen that he is fit, he's available, he's played a lot of minutes in a training match as well, a friendly, a closed, behind doors, closed doors, friendly for Chelsea. So he is going to be available, and he is really the only right back at the team, other than maybe Azpilicueta. But yeah, I feel like that he is going to be starting straight away, hopefully getting a lot of minutes, and he has got that nice double game week, including the fixture against Fulham in game week 19, and he's got very strong fixtures in game week 17 and 18 as well, where Chelsea are looking reasonably likely to keep some clean sheets. So, you know, clean sheets plus any James madness attacking returns, it could happen. We see it all the time. So yeah, in that case, I think James is a great option. A slightly risky one. He's always going to be a minute's risk, but because I'm happy, I've seen him play in a friendly match, I know he's fit, I'm happy with it. He's going to go in a great option. Next up, Darwin Nunez, who I'm going to also put in great option. I'm going to put him ahead of Reece James. Of course, we spoke about him in quite a lot of detail in yesterday's buy, sell, keep, avoid video, and spoke about why he is such a good option. So do go make sure you go check that one out. I'm not going to speak about him too much in this video, though. Let's move on to Benjamin White, who I think I'm going to put him in a good option. Not going to quite put him in a great option. My only issue with Ben White, and I do really like him as a pick, my one small concern with him is that when would you play him? Because often Ben White is probably going to be a bench defender, and the fixtures for Arsenal are not amazing, and we really are looking at fixtures. When we're looking at our defenders, we just want to keep clean sheets mainly. Arsenal are a very strong defence, so he's definitely a good option, but how often would you play him? I'm not totally sure. He's a good option, but he's not a great option. Next up, Castagna. Let's put him in the optional category. I'm not massively convinced by him, to be honest. Leicester have some mixed fixtures, I guess. They do have some good fixtures coming up soon, though, so I don't know. Maybe there is a place for him somewhere. I think I would rather go for the left back on the other side, whose name escapes me, who I'm sure I will remember in the next 10 seconds. But yeah, Thomas. I would rather go for Thomas, because Thomas is only 4.2 million. So I feel like save a little bit of money. Again, you know, Castagna probably going to be a bench defender anyway. He's not going to be starting for you very often, so it might be worth just spending a little less money, particularly as you're not going to play him for many of these upcoming fixtures. He's mostly going to be on the bench for you, isn't he? But yeah, no, Leicester, let's see how they do in terms of defensive over the next, over the remainder of the season, because they were doing really well before the World Cup. Next up, Maddison, and I don't really like this pick at all. Again, weak fixtures. He's not a player you can bench for those weak fixtures either, and there's just so many other like midfielders that are looking really good, that are looking really nice, players that we can potentially go for. So Maddison, I know a lot of people really like this pick, and I do think he is still an option, so he's not a straight up avoid, but is he a player I like? Is he a player I would really be desperate to get in my team, or I'm very keen on? Absolutely not, unfortunately. I just think the fixtures and how Maddison is a very streaky player who does depend on a lot on form. I would like to see the starts of some form before going for a player like Maddison, and particularly as we've had such a long break, for Maddison, who hasn't played any World Cup football either, there is no such thing as form for him. There is no form. Nobody, well, very few players, unless they played in the World Cup and played very well, not many players are in form. So we're kind of starting afresh, and I don't know if Maddison is a player I'd like to start fresh with. He's more of a player I'd like to see him start that streak, you know, even if it's just for one game, see how he plays, see how he does, and then go for him. And we've got a couple of weeks to decide whilst we have these kind of difficult fixtures, I guess, for Leicester. So he's going to be an optional. Don't think he's a straight up avoid. Not someone I am massively keen on. Next up, we're going to put in Callum Wilson, who I think is maybe a kind of a slight differential. If Newcastle keep playing as well as they have been playing, then I feel like Wilson has got to be at least in the conversation somewhere. The problem is with Wilson, it's like many other players, there's just so many other players in his position that you'd probably rather go for. Mitrovic, we've got Darwin Nunez on the screen already. We spoke about Harry Kane in the other tier list video that I did a couple of days ago. So yeah, it's going to be difficult to go for Wilson, I think, but he should be in the conversation, I think, at least. We're going to put in Rodrigo next, and I know I put him as an avoid in the video yesterday, just because he plays Manchester City and Newcastle back-to-back, who are two of the strongest defences in the league. And I know people will say, Rodrigo, he is fixture-proof. You know, he scored against Liverpool, he scored against Spurs as well just before the break. The issue with that is that Spurs and Liverpool have consistently put out weak defensive numbers, and Manchester City and Newcastle, even though you would say, you know, they're good teams as well, Liverpool a good team, Spurs a good team, Man City a good team, Newcastle a good team, City and Newcastle actually have been putting up consistently good defensive numbers. So it's definitely possible that Rodrigo gets something out of this, and him being listed as a midfielder despite playing as a forward is very nice, but it's not enough to convince me to take a punt on him in two really difficult fixtures when there's a lot of other options out there, you know, likes of Rashford or Martinelli. These are kind of the players in a similar kind of price bracket you're probably going to prefer to Rodrigo. I am going to slip him up to optional though, because I feel like you could probably convince me that he is an option, but I'm not too keen. Next up, Cucurella. So Cucurella, I feel like he is got to be somewhere in a good option. My one concern with him is how soon Ben Chilwell is going to be back. I don't think Chilwell is going to be back super quick, which should nail on Cucurella in the short term. But if Chilwell comes back before the double game week, then we're going to have some problems with Cucurella. So if we find out Chilwell is out for a little while, then Cucurella suddenly becomes a great option and a real cheap alternative to Reece James, and maybe a more nailed on alternative as well, which is quite nice. But for now, I'm not going to put him quite that high. I'm going to put him in a good option, but not a great option. Next up, Mason Mount, and I've got conflicting information about him. I know we're going pretty ham on these Chelsea players, but we need to speak about some Chelsea players. We didn't do it in the last tier list video. The problem is with Mason Mount is there are rumours he is injured. He didn't play in the behind closed doors friendlies. I haven't got any more information at time of recording, which concerns me a little bit. So at this exact moment, would I put Mount in my team? No, seems a bit risky, but I still do feel like if he is available, he is going to be a good option for you. So I'm going to put him, I'm going to put him like probably here. Somewhere around here, I guess. Good option, not great option. Let's put him next to Callum Wilson. I'll put him slightly ahead of Callum Wilson because I just like him. Son next. I'm going to put Son in avoid. I mean, at least he's available. At least he's fit. So, I mean, that beats Dallo at least right now. So, yeah. Yeah, let's put Son in there. I still think he's an avoid. Too much money, you know, you're not going to buy Son over the likes of Salah or De Bruyne or Haaland or Kane. It's just not going to happen realistically, which is strange because Son could go nuts. Like, there is every chance that Son scores a load of points, but are we realistically going to pick him over some of the other options? No, we're not. We're just not going to do it. It's too much, too risky. Robertson, I like. Robertson, I kind of like, but it's just difficult. Liverpool have just been so bad defensively this season that it's difficult to make a good argument. So I'm going to put him in optional. And I kind of like him as a differential, but if I'm speaking with my sensible hat on, then it's very difficult to strongly recommend him. Maybe we can slip him into the good options section. I just think clean sheets are going to be difficult to come by. I like the attacking output of Robertson this season. That's the only other thing, kind of particularly in the second half more recently of the season so far. Yeah, there is, again, there's a player we should be speaking about and considering, but are we going to pick him like above the likes of Reece James, who's a lot cheaper? We've got some other defenders we're going to talk about in this video as well that I feel like I would rate slightly higher than Robertson, so he's going to go in there. Next up, Kulusevski, who's another player I can't fully get on board with. His numbers, his stats for this season are really quite bad. You know, Spurs have been really... I don't know, difficult to predict. Let's put it that way. And I know Kulusevski is going to be playing whilst Richarlison is out, which is definitely a good thing. But I have not seen enough good things from Kulusevski to convince me to pick him. So I still think he's an option. I think he's a, you know, I prefer him to Maddison, for example. But am I super keen on Kulusevski? I would need a lot of convincing. And I feel like the thing is, a lot of people are kind of saying, well, last season Kulusevski was very, very good. Last season was, you know, I mean, we're almost in January, so we're talking like 6, 7, 8 months ago when we were last seeing Kulusevski smashing it in the Premier League. So very, very difficult to be confident about a player like him. So gonna have to go in optional. I think you can pick him, but I don't think there's any guaranteed results there, if I'm honest, particularly knowing how Spurs have been. You know, double game week coming up. Maybe that's a time where we bring Kulusevski into the conversation. Game week 20, Spurs do have a double, but the double's against City and Arsenal. I don't know. Not convinced by this one. Not convinced. Maybe one of you guys can convince me that Kulusevski is a good option in the comments. Tell me why he is good, because I'm not feeling it. Let's do Bailey next. Bailey, I feel like, is actually, you know, for 4.5, he's actually not bad. So he should be nailed on because Unai Emery plays of course with wingers, and Bailey is really the only natural winger at Aston Villa right now. So you get a 4.5 million midfielder that's nailed on, playing every game. That's kind of the same situation as we find with Andreas Pereira, to be fair. It's kind of like, who do you prefer? Do you prefer Bailey or Pereira? They're both kind of a similar mould of player, really, in the sense that we've got an attacking midfielder, really, essentially. For 4.5 million, which is just unheard of in seasons gone by. So he's already way better than 4.5 million midfielders of, you know, seasons before. But at the same time, are we picking Bailey over Pereira? I don't know if we are. Just because with that double game week in particular, not fully convinced. So I guess he's optional. If you really want to be a bit different, then maybe you can go for Bailey. But you know, I wouldn't be going for Bailey over Andreas personally, but there we go. All right, Nathan Patterson next. I think he is the best 4 million defender, probably. And we are going to come to another player who I know you're going to be screaming at me right now very, very shortly. But Patterson is going to be nailed on. He's playing for an Everton defence who I think can improve. Like, we've seen flashes of good defensive performances from Everton this season, particularly towards, you know, just before the international break. We did see Everton start to you know, be about it a little bit. We could potentially see Patterson playing as a right wing back at times as well. There is different things that I like about Patterson. He's very highly rated. You know, he's got a decent attacking ability in him as well. We haven't quite seen it yet. He's had that injury, and he is a bit injury prone. We've kind of seen that for a while now for Everton and for Rangers as well. He's a bit injury prone, but at the same time, I think like he's an okay option. Like, if you're looking for a 4 million defender, you can do a lot worse than Patterson. So I'm going to drop him. I'm not going to put him in a great option. I don't think he's quite there. I would prefer some of these other defenders. I'm going to put him ahead of these guys, though. So I'm going to put him in a good option, because I do think if you're looking for just that solid, reliable 4 million defender, he is your guy. He is definitely your guy for that reliable 4 million defender. I think he's better than, you know, Nico Williams, for example. I think he's you know, a decent shout there. So yeah, Patterson, like him a lot. Mac Allister, a lot of people transferring in him because he did very well at the World Cup. Unfortunately, he is going to be at bottom of the avoid tier for me, just because one, he's going to get a rest. He's going to get a rest following his World Cup heroics. He is not going to be playing in Game Week 17. May even not be ready for Game Week 18. I'm not sure about that one. probably ready for Game Week 18, but Game Week 17 is probably a write-off for him completely. Another thing is he plays very deep for this Brighton team. He doesn't have as much attacking freedom as we saw at times for Argentina, and even for Argentina, he didn't have that much attacking freedom. But for Brighton, he's very much a defensive midfielder. He is a player who relies on penalties to get his points, which is fine. If you want to just pick a nice cheap player who you want to chance your luck, try and get some penalties, he is very much a penalty merchant, then fair enough. But I would prefer to go for a player who offers penalties. There's a lot of our players in FPL take penalties and offer so much more as well. McAllister is kind of unique in that he doesn't really offer much more than penalties. He's a bit of a Jorginho in that sense. If you want a penalty taker, why not just go for Jorginho? He's got a double game week coming up as well. Next up, Kyle Walker. Is he a must-have? I feel like he's up there. He's really up there in terms of a player who should be really good. Nailed on, playing for Man City. Man City have a double game week coming up, potentially 2 double game weeks coming up. He's only 4.8 million, which is super cheap for a nailed on Man City defender. There is a lot of really good things to like about Walker. Unfortunately, his attacking ability is not always there. Not really his job in the team. But 4.8 million for a nailed on Man City defender with double game weeks coming up. That's pretty good. That is pretty good, isn't it? That's a rare opportunity. I really do like him. In fact, I would really consider going for Walker ahead of Cancelo at this moment, just because the difference in the price is so significant. Maybe Walker is our guy. Saved over 2 million or around 2 million. Go for Walker. Oh, madness. I mean, I've not got any must-haves yet. Maybe I should start shifting some players up. I don't know if I'm gonna put Walker just like next to Darwin, I think. Must-have. It feels like no differential is a must-have. So maybe I need to be a little bit more generous here and start boosting some players up. Maybe have a little fiddle at the end of the video and just move players around. When I say have a little fiddle, by the way, I know where your brains went. Stop that. Next up, Botman. 4.4 million for a Newcastle defender. It's not bad. It's an option. I think it's fairly decent. I prefer him to Botman to someone like Castagna. High chance of a clean sheet, playing for a better defence. The problem is Newcastle's fixtures are a little bit dodgy. So to get a player who just relies on clean sheets, pretty much not going to get too many attacking returns, is it worth it? Maybe. You can do it if you want. I'm going to put Gabriel up here near Ben White, I think. I want to put him like, I don't know, maybe like here. Just because Gabriel, like, he does have a decent attacking, ability there. He's much better than Saliba and he's cheaper than Saliba. But Gabriel is very much the header taker. Like, he is the goal scorer from those set pieces, and Arsenal are scoring a lot of goals from set pieces as well. So Gabriel is very much the beneficiary of that, I suppose. So he could get you some really nice scores. You don't know when they're going to happen, but corner goals, corner headers, they're going to happen occasionally. If you just stick with a player like Gabriel, you are going to pick up some very nice scores now and again. So I like him. He's going to go in good option. Next up, Kinder Bueno, who's the one player, the 1.4 million defender I would consider putting ahead of Patterson. Now, Bueno is very, very difficult because he is kind of the high risk, high reward cheap defender. Problem is with him is that we have the likes of Johnny returning from injury very, very soon. We've got Nori there as well, who all want to play in the same position. So is Bueno going to maintain his place? Well, he's played very well. There's no real reason to drop him, but there is a lot of reason to rotate him because, we don't, Wolves don't need to play Bueno. Now, Wolves are also a better defence than Everton, and we have seen Bueno actually do quite well, in attacking returns. I think he scored in a friendly recently as well, which was pretty crazy. There's a lot of good things going on, and he's slightly cheaper than Patterson. So the way you can kind of look at it is say, Wolves are a better defence. If Bueno is starting, and if Bueno is playing, then he's going to be actually a decent option to go for. Problem is you don't know if he's going to start. But if he does start, he's probably better than Patterson. So, should we rank him higher than Patterson? I guess so. Just that minor rotation risk that slightly puts me off. But at the end of the day, your 4 million defender, how often are you actually going to rely on them? Maybe it's just better to go for the cheaper option, take a punt, see if Bueno turns into an absolute FPL legend, and stick with him. That's kind of an option there. Right, finally, guys, I'm going to put a player in the must-have category. It's going to be Kepa. It's going to be Kepa. Arrizabalaga, he is going in the must-have category because he's 4.5 million goalkeeper playing for a top 6 side, or big 6 side, should I say. That is so, so rare. 4.5 million goalkeepers are usually the goalkeepers playing for bottom half teams. Kepa is playing very well this season. He is the main starting goalkeeper for Chelsea. I spoke about him at length in the Buy Sell Keep Avoid video yesterday, so if you want to know more about him and why I like him so much, again, do go check out the video. But he's a must-have. There's no way I am going into Game Week 17 without Kepa Arrizabalaga. And if you told me that at the beginning of the season, I would have told you you're mad. But hey, this is FPL. It's a wild, wild world out here. Next up, Bruno Fernandes, and I want to put him in great option. The difficulty is his price, and it's really difficult to fit him in, you know, especially if you've got like, so, you know, you want Salah or Haaland, you want KDB, you want Darwin Nunez, another fairly expensive player. How do you fit in Fernandes? And the answer is, you probably don't. But as a standalone player, really like this pick. Amazing fixtures over the next 3. He's going to be on penalties now, so we could have the return of Fernandes, who was such a good FPL asset. He really was so good, and he's such a big differential as well. If he does well, you are going to absolutely fly up the ranks. So I like a lot about Fernandes, but it's going to be difficult to fit him in, and you are going to have to make a sacrifice, and I think that's the problem. That's the thing. Probably is what stops me from putting him in a great option. So I'm going to have to drop him down into good option because it is just too difficult to fit him in. But if you can manage it, hey, congratulations. You may have found yourself the perfect differential. We've got a few more differentials here. Again, more super low ownership players. 3 more to go. First of all, another Manchester United player, and that is going to be Tony Martial, who I'm going to put him like here. Again, good option, like it. Not quite prepared to put him in the great option category just because I feel like Martial is probably going to get, you know, 60, 70 minutes a match. Like, he's not going to be playing all of the minutes, but when he's on the pitch, he's going to be good. He's going to be playing as the central striker for Manchester United when they've got a great run of fixtures. It does look kind of good, and I feel like Martial is a genuine Mitrovic alternative. Like Callum Wilson, who I spoke about before, it's like, I'm not sure I want to go for Wilson instead of Mitrovic. But Martial, I feel like if you go for him, particularly if you can't get a Rashford or a Fernandes into your team, and you just want to find that Manchester United striker, I feel like Martial is really nice Manchester United attack cover in some nice home games coming up. Against promoted teams, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth coming up, Wolves, which can be a good fixture as well sometimes. Yeah, I think this could be a really interesting differential that could fly you up the ranks. It's kind of a fun one in a way as well. I think he's a good option. I think it's a genuine alternative to Mitrovic, particularly if you're worried about Mitrovic's yellow card situation. I think the answer to that problem is probably Martial instead. So there you go, Martial, good option. Tempted to put him higher. I'm tempted to put him in a great option. Can I do it? You know what? I'm doing it. I'm putting him in a great I like this pick. It is fun. It is interesting. It is differential. Right, let's put some players in slightly lower. First of all, Somerville. Yeah, I enjoyed his run of form before the break. He's only 4.4 million, so super cheap. But again, Somerville is that player. You're probably never going to play him. You know, even if you have him and he's scoring goals, are you actually ever going to start him anyway? Probably not. I would rather have an Andreas Pereira, who you're not going to start, but then at least you'll start him in that double game week, in game week 19. Somerville, you're not going to start him next game week because he plays against Man City. You're not going to start him the week after because he plays against Newcastle. The week after that, game week 19, when Somerville and Leeds finally start getting some good fixtures. I say good fixtures, they play against West Ham, so it's not like an amazing fixture. So that's the first time you would play Somerville. And who would you rather play, Somerville or Andreas? So it doesn't really make full sense to me to go for Somerville at this moment. You're not going to play him, and even when you do play him in game week 19, you're probably going to wish you had Andreas Pereira instead. So sorry, Somerville. I think you're amazing. I think you're a great bargain option, and you're a differential, if nothing else. But you're in a void. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to do it to you. Nketiah, should we put him in optional? I think I'm going to put him in optional. I'm not quite prepared to put him in good option. I just feel like, yes, super differential, 0.6% owned. Not many people are going to be going for Nketiah at all. Arsenal's fixtures are kind of a bit of a mixed bag. They don't have great fixtures. Nketiah is not like he's a player in form because he hasn't really had much game time this season. I have no doubt that he is a great striker, and he served a lot of us well in FPL at the end of last season. But unfortunately, Unfortunately, the fixtures combined with the lack of game time, we don't know the situation, we don't know the form, we don't know how well Arsenal are going to do in attack whilst Gabriel Jesus is out, because Jesus has obviously just been doing so well for Arsenal and doing so much, not just in terms of scoring goals or getting assists, but being so important to the structure of the attack and the team. I don't know what Arsenal we're going to see. It should still be pretty good. Nketiah is definitely an option, but he's not anywhere near some of these other players. I prefer Martial, I prefer Callum Wilson, I prefer Mitrovic, and they're all priced around the same. If Nketiah was like 5 million, 5.5 million, then we'd probably be saying, hey, if we can save 1 million by going for him, then maybe that's an option. We don't even have that advantage this season with Nketiah, so unfortunately, he is going to be in the optional category. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it. These are the players I like. Certainly those guys at the top, Kepa, Walker, Darwin, James and Martial, are players that I'm really strongly considering in my team. They're not locked in my... I'd say most of these players, other than Martial, are locked. And we've got likes of, Fernandes, White, Cucurella, Gabriel, Bueno, Patterson, Mount. These are players that are really nice as well. Other than that, look, some of these players are risky. Of course they're risky. That's why they're differential. That's why they have low ownership. That is the fun of going for a differential, that there is a little bit of risk. So there's no one on here that I'm really certain about. But there's a lot of players on here that are a lot of fun and could really, really help you out in FPL. Really make the difference between you and your mini league rivals, who probably won't be thinking about a lot of these players, between you and the overall ranking. Most players, most FPL managers are not going to be thinking about these players. So these are really good options. If anything else, just to be different, but some of these are genuinely really nice players, particularly those towards the top of this tier list. So we're going to leave it there. I think I've covered most of the differentials. I appreciate this has been a bit of a longer video, but look, there's just been so many players I wanted to speak about. Usually I'll only speak about like 8 differentials in a per differentials video, but we covered loads today, so hopefully it's been a little bit useful talking about different players. Let me know what you think about some of these differentials. Will you be going for any of these you see on screen right now? Why will you be going for them? Why won't you be going for them? Let me know. And also, of course, if there's any other differentials that you're thinking about, drop one of them. Drop them in the comments. Let's see what the people or the comments section thinks about some of you guys' differentials as well. But we're gonna leave it there, guys. Let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done already. And yeah, of course, we've got other videos on the channel right now. I mentioned the buy, sell, keep, avoid video, which I uploaded yesterday. Go check that out. And we did another tier list video a couple of days ago as well, which is going to have some of the more popular players in. Team selection video coming up tomorrow. That's on Thursday again, because I've updated my team a lot and I want to show you guys. But aside from that, make sure you got those notifications on for the future videos. And we'll leave it there. I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.